Hey guys, welcome to today's topic. We are going to continue learning about single-celled organisms and planktons. So as you can see here, this is a very accurate picture of a plankton. So planktons are technically organisms that are found in oceans or seas or basically water bodies. Like even 1 teaspoon of water taken from the ocean or sea or river contains millions and millions and millions of organisms or parasites that we cannot see through our eyes. We would have to use a microscope. Hopefully when you guys come back we can use a microscope to look at droplets of water that contain different organisms and try to study how they function. Now, fun fact, the reason why planktons are called drifters is because they literally drift. They literally float around everywhere. They normally are they can be very tiny, so tiny that we cannot even see them. But in some cases, it's also possible that the plankton is so huge that it's as big or bigger than an elephant whale. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine seeing a plankton that is so huge that you cannot even wrap your arms around it? Well, that's a plankton. They normally there is a class called photoplankton, and they normally create their own food. And if you remember from previous lectures, if they create their own food, they're using sunlight. They are using a process called photosynthesis, and they probably have chlorophyll or chloroplasts within their body. And chloroplasts are technically these tiny, tiny organelles or tiny, tiny parts of the cells that synthesize the sunlight, and they create sugar and release oxygen, and the sugar that is produced is used by them in the form of nutrition or food that they eat to grow or to survive. And that's what's happening with planktons as well. And photoplanktons are those categories. They contain chloroplasts, right? So they create their own food. And these chloroplasts or these photoplanktons can also be eaten by other creatures that live within the ocean or the rivers, like fishes, sea turtles, crabs, squids, octopus, and so on. As you can see in this picture here, it is so curious. They don't really have a definite form. They can be circular, but they can also be in a tube-like structure. They can look in a crescent form. So it really changes depending on each single-celled organism that we're looking at. Some of them can be considered as plants, but some of them can also be considered as animals. I know it sounds confusing, but depending on how they eat or how they produce or don't produce their own food, they can be categorized into the plant or animal kingdom. Exciting, isn't it? And like I said, they're known as drifters because the way they move, they're just, going along in their own direction, not caring about the world around them. They just drift and they just exist. And it's just a normal life for them. Interesting, isn't it? I hope you guys also watch a very curious video. If you click on this tab right here, it will take you to a YouTube video on planktons, what they look like. It's very interesting, very detailed. So please go ahead and look at that as well. Moving on, we have another slide to look at, which is about prokaryotes. Now, as you can see, this is a picture of a single-celled organism. Now, there is a classification. There is a classification in place in which we can actually, separate different organisms into each kingdom. The first one that we are going to look at, the only one that we're going to look at, are called Monera. And the organisms that belong to this kingdom are called monerans. Now, as you can see in this case, bacteria belong to the Monera classification or the Monera kingdom and are known as monerans. And bacteria are also often classified as prokaryotes, as you can see here. And the reason they're known as prokaryotes is because they don't have a nucleus. Or distinct organelles. As you can see here in this picture right here, there's a mush of different things that's happening within the cell. It's not very specific, it's not distinct, it's not clear, right? And because it's not clear, or because there's not a clear distinction between different organelles or the nucleus, we call it a prokaryote. Now, on the other hand, if we were looking at our own cells that contain a nucleus, that contain different organelles like vacuoles, or vacuoles, which are like bubbles that contain water, then they're distinct, right? So they would be called as eukaryotes. Eukaryotes. But because, like I said, they don't contain nucleus, they're known as prokaryotes. Again, there's another video for you to look at. Now, I've already shared the note sheet with y'all initially, so please go ahead and complete them. Type in your notes every day so that you guys can remember the information. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Alright then, I will see you guys later. Have a great day.